What's good, C-Red Nation? I'm going to give you 5 players the Chicago Bulls should look to draft in 2020, and it starts right now. If you are new to the channel, please like the video. Please subscribe to the page because we do talk Chicago sports weekly. We don't want you to miss a thing, so make sure that you hit that bell. So, Bulls have the 4th pick in the draft. There's a lot that they can do with it. So I am going to basically break down the 5 players that I think that they should look at taking in this draft and whether they should move up to secure that player, stay where they're at, or maybe move back in the draft even with some of these guys. So let's get into it. Number 5 on my list for me, Deni Avdija. I like Deni. Deni's cool. 6'9", point forward kind of guy. Somebody that the Bulls could absolutely use, good length. When I watched this highlight tape, I didn't see a ton of defense in his tape. Didn't see a ton of him, really going chest to chest with us. Not a high total of points. He's a guy that, to me, you're bringing over on the hope of Luka. Luka came over saying that it was a lot easier to score in the NBA than it is overseas in the Euro leagues and things like that. And so you're bringing him over on the hope of Luka. He finished his season averaging 12.9 points, 6.3 rebounds, 2.7 assists a game over in the Israeli league. Not bad numbers at all. Not what I would be looking for at the 4th pick in the draft, and his name has been floated very high up in this draft. Like I said, not somebody who I would look to personally take that high at 4. I think Golden State has really, saying that they were really impressed with him has really boosted his draft stock highly, because if Golden State's willing to look at him, then we should be willing to look at him, right? That's how it goes. So to me, it's one of those things where I'm kind of okay simply waiting and seeing on where he goes. I don't think you have to move up to get him. If he falls to you at 4 and he's the guy that you've identified as your guy, I think you could go after him. Other than that, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to fall back on AK on this one. I'm going to let AK take the lead on this one because I don't know. You know what I'm saying? With the overseas guys, it's iffy. Niko Mirotic was the best overseas player in the world. He came over here and he was a scrub. Over there, he's back over there and he's winning MVP again. So you really don't know. It's very up and down. So to me, I like Deni. If there's no one else on this list left, Deni's not a bad option, but Deni would not be my first option at the number 4 pick in the draft. Now, number 4 in the draft is a guy who really impressed me, especially defensively, and he surprised me a little bit offensively as well, but it's Onyeka Okongwu. He's out of USC. 7'1" wingspan, forward, 6'9", 245 pounds, 16.2 points a game, 8.6 rebounds a game. Oh, and he's averaging almost 3 blocks a game. Now, I know a lot of people look at this pick and say, well, Pat, we have forwards, we have centers, we don't need this guy. You go based on talent. To me, when I watched this guy was the best defensive center in the draft. I think that James Wiseman is going to be the best all-around center in the draft. But when I watched him, he was literally the best defensive center in the draft. And there's been a lot of questions about Wendell Carter around here after he said that he wanted to play the 4. Where does he fit into this system? Where does he fit into this system with Billy Donovan? Is he going to be able to play the 5? Is he going to be able to adapt to that 5 position, which we've seen Wendell play well. The biggest issue for Wendell really has been health, if we're being honest. But a lot of times, even when he's on the floor, he hasn't been able to stay out of position because he's trying to guard those, or stay out of foul trouble. I'm sorry, because he's trying to guard those bigger defenders. So, to me, if you feel you don't have something with Wendell moving forward, this is a draft night move. You try to flip Wendell, get some assets, maybe get some draft capital in this draft and the next possibly, and you pick up a guy like Onyeka Okongwu. I want to make sure I'm saying his name right, Onyeka Okongwu, because this kid really gets it done around the basket. I mean, defensively, he was a standout at USC. Anything that was around the rim, it was in danger of being thrown away. And you look at him offensively, like I said, offensively a surprise. He had a little bit of a mid-range game, not a ton. At least from what I saw, I didn't see him shooting it a ton. and he was just a force around the paint. I mean, 245, that's a lot of weight to be throwing around, and he's only going to bulk up once he gets to the NBA, so that weight's going to go up as well. And he is a force around the paint. He's going to be able to move a lot of guys out of the way. I really looked at him as kind of a guy you already have on the roster in a Daniel Gafford, maybe with a little bit more offensive prowess. But if you're able to have Gafford maybe start at the 5 if you do end up moving off of Wendell, and then you have Okongwu coming off the bench, that's a nasty 1-2 punch at that center position, and that's something that I wouldn't mind watching myself. Now, before I continue with the video, I want to know your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Who do you think the Chicago Bulls should take at 4? Or do you think they should move up or move down? Let me know. I'll be down in the comments talking with each and every one of you. Number 3 on my list is LaMelo Ball. And a lot of people might look at me crazy for that, saying, how's LaMelo not number 2 or number 1 on your list? Let me explain myself here. LaMelo's still a very big unknown at 4. I think the upside is tremendous on LaMelo. We're talking about a 6'7" guard, 181 pounds. I think that LaMelo probably has some of the best ball vision in the draft. So if you were able to put him at that 3, you could play kind of that point forward position, allow Zach and Lowry to play off ball, which is something that both of those guys can create with. Especially if they have somebody really setting them up. 17 points a game, almost 7 assists a game, almost 8 rebounds a game. Some great stuff, right? Great stuff, right? But when you look at it, only in 12 games, and in most of the games I saw, his team was behind. He was struggling. He was kind of trying to shoot them back into it. I'm not going to pretend like I watched full games. You know, I'm watching the highlight clips. I'm watching tape of him trying to bring his team back. He's shooting deep threes. He's knocking them down. He's still got it, but he doesn't shoot that. He wasn't shooting that 3 at a high percentage. So it could be that he never got into a rhythm. I mean, he only played 12 games over there. So, you know, sometimes it takes guys a little bit of time just to get warmed up. He was definitely scoring, but I mean, you look at the shooting percentages, not great. He was shooting the 3 at about 25%, taking 6 a game, making maybe 2 of them, about 1.7 there. And then there's a lot of question marks around LaMelo. And now I'm hearing in interviews he's doing poorly, which to me, it could just be just because he seems a little bratty. I'm not even gonna stunt with you. Like he seems like he would come into an interview and be like, listen, you drafted me and I'm gonna be the best player on the team, and that's what it's gonna be. You could take it or leave it. Like, he definitely seemed like he would go into a draft interview and do that. I know his agent's probably flipping out right now, just like, bruh, just answer the questions and chill out. Like, but listen, that to me does not mean that LaMelo doesn't have the talent, but I think LaMelo's probably your biggest boom or bust player in this draft. And I'm a guy that doesn't mind gambling on the boom. Listen, I was all the way in on Michael Porter Jr. If y'all go back, I'm all the way in on Michael Porter Jr. So I wouldn't mind if Arturas saw something that he thought LaMelo could absolutely add value to this team, that he could be a key player, that maybe his attitude needs a little bit of adjusting, but we can handle that once he's in here. The talent is worth it. I wouldn't mind seeing the LaMelo Ball go to the Bulls at 4. I don't think he's somebody you reach for. I don't think he's somebody you try to go up in the draft to get, unless you identify him as a can't-miss talent. But I don't think that there really are any of those other than Anthony Edwards in this draft. So his stock is falling. He definitely could be there for the Bulls at 4, which could turn the draft on its ear. But like I said, a LaMelo Ball, I'm down for it. I think that his ball vision alone is something that you have to look into, because it does a good job at spreading the floor out, getting Lowry involved, getting Wendell, Zach, Kobe, all those guys that you're probably going to see in your starting lineup, making sure that they are involved in the game. And even at times you can even mix the lineups up, just have him play the point, have Kobe at the 2 and Zach at the 3. So you can do a lot with LaMelo on the court. So I wouldn't mind seeing a LaMelo Ball in a Bulls uniform. I just don't think I would reach for him at this point. And number 2 on my list, a lot of people are going to say number 2, old Pat, I can't believe you've put him this high. And I put him this high for a reason. To me, there aren't a lot of guaranteed buckets in this NBA draft. I think that I'm sure there will be some that we identify as some, this guy right here was a guaranteed bucket, but he got hurt. We got to look deeper into that. He was a guaranteed bucket, but he got hurt. We gotta make sure that we can check that out. Or he didn't get the PT he was supposed to get. We gotta make sure we check that out. I'm sure that there'll be those guys in there, but to me, this guy is a certified guaranteed bucket at the forward position. I'm talking about Obi Toppin, and that's the reason I put him over LaMelo, because there's a lot of question marks around a lot of these guys. But with Obi Toppin, the question marks are defensively. He don't have it. There's not really much of a question there. He's not going to play much defense. You wouldn't have much of a defensive lineup, but you would be getting a player that in college is averaging 20 points a game, 7.5 rebounds a game, and just a dominant force from the inside. Not much of a three-point shooter, but just a dominant force. A guy who very much like Zach LaVine can attack the paint and destroy the paint. Is a three-point shot something that he could add to his game at some point? I'm sure he will. I'm sure they'll have him practicing it in the NBA. But he's shooting from the field 64%. You can't argue with that. I think, like I said, there's going to be some defensive inefficiencies with Obi Toppin. He's not much of a defender from what I saw. I think I saw maybe a couple highlights where he might have got a chase down block just based off of sheer size and athleticism. But for the most part, you're getting what you're getting. You're bringing in a Carmelo Anthony stereotypical kind of player. I'm not saying that he is Carmelo Anthony, but you are bringing in a bucket, a certified bucket. And I think you'd be pairing them with a good mix of guys. It looks like Wendell's going to be shooting a few more threes this season. We know Lowry's going to have the three ball as well. Zach has that three ball. Kobe has that three ball. So it's not like you're going to be clogging up the paint if he's taking his time in there trying to attack the paint. He's a good wing. He's got good length. And I think that he can do a lot of things for this team, especially offensively. I think that he can boost your scoring immediately. Also, the fact that he's a little bit of a high flyer definitely adds to the excitement of him coming to Chicago. The thought of him and Zach both dunking back to back, throwing the oops to each other. Whew, I'd be down for that any day. Now, at number one, here's a guy that I know that a lot of people are going to look at me and be like, really, Pat? What'd you identify in this kid? Now, this is a guy who I am personally high on based on the tape that I saw of him. He seems like a very AK kind of pick, maybe not at 4, maybe somebody you move back for, grab some assets, because a lot of people probably won't be looking at him at that position. And you pick him up later on, maybe even moving down to 7, you pick up that draft pick, and maybe, Derrick Rose. I'm not saying, I'm just saying. There's been a lot. I keep seeing that every draft is basically like, should the Bulls bring back Derrick Rose? Yeah, just trade the 4, get the 7, and Derrick Rose. I'm like, that's not the same value anymore, y'all. It's sentimental value, but that's not the same draft value. But 7 would be a good spot to go back to for this guy. Maybe get a little bit of extra draft capital on top of it. That guy's Devin Vassell. He's my number 1 guy. And I'll tell you why. This is a kid who is a two-way player. A lot of people look at Isaac Okoro as the next Jimmy Butler. To me, it's this kid right here. Now, as y'all know, I say all the time, I don't watch a ton of college basketball. And with no March Madness this year, I really didn't get to see these guys play at their best. But from what I saw of Devin Vassell, this kid is it. We're talking about a player that only 12 points a game, which a lot of these guys are averaging. A lot of these top players that are going in the draft don't have the high point capitals. But we're talking about a kid who's shooting 41% from 3, 51% for everything inside of the three-point line, and overall he's shooting about 50% from the field. And you match that with his defensive capabilities, I think you've got a guy who, if he has that engine, if he has that work ethic, and I think that's something you have to identify in these pre-draft meetings, but you're looking at a guy who can absolutely turn into a dominant two-way wing in this league. Oh, by the way, 6'6", 180 pounds, a 6'10" wingspan, so a dominant defender. You'd basically be bringing in a lockdown bucket who has a lot of upside on the offensive end. I think that's something that the Bulls absolutely need to look into, because we have a lot of offense if these pieces are put in the right position on this team. I mean, even in losing efforts, the Bulls were able to put up high point totals. The problem was they couldn't stop anybody. I think the defense needs to be a focus of this draft as well. And like I said, would I take this guy at 4? I don't know if I'd take him at 4, but if you can move back in the draft like we know AK has done so well, you pick up a couple extra assets. Maybe you do get a Derrick Rose back. Heck, who knows? You pick up a couple extra assets, and you're able to lock in a legit starting defender for the next 10 years who has a ton of offensive upside in my position. in my opinion. The numbers may not show it right now, but the shooting percentages really showed me something. And when you watch him, the shot selection really showed me something. He's taking high efficient shots that he knows he can knock down. And so to me, this young man out of Florida State should be the number one guy on the Bulls' radar. I think that it brings a ton of versatility. I think that it brings a ton of length. I think that it brings a defensive presence in the middle to anchor you together. And he's somebody that the Bulls should look at going forward. But at the end of the day, I want to know your opinion. Let me know in the comments below. Who do you think the Bulls should be taking at 4? Or do you think the Bulls should be moving up or moving back in this draft? Let me know in the comments below. I'll be down there talking with each and every one of you. I'm going to get up out of here. This is your boy Pat, the designer, back at it again. To continue watching our Bulls content, click the links here or check all the rest of our content in the links below. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. Peace.